Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about parenting, good communication, and how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle of self-government. And in this video, we're talking about the Four Tendencies book and self-government skills for success. So this channel is called Teaching Self-Government, and that's what I'm most known for all over the world. So what is self-government? We're going to start by learning a little bit about self-government. We're going to talk some about this book, The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, and how the self-government principles can help with all four tendencies. So what is self-government? Let's start there. The definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So what that means is that you understand cause and effect as it relates to your choices and actions. So a person who is self-governed would make a plan for themselves and then follow through with that plan. And if they seem to go off course, they would pull themselves back on course. Now, when a person is self-governed, does this factor in or take into account what tendencies they might have? And what are tendencies anyway? A little over a year ago, a friend of mine referred me to this book, The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. And truthfully, I'm the type of person that likes the books where we learn more about personality types and stuff like that, but I don't put so much stock in it that I feel like whatever an author says about those things is absolutely true. In fact, I get a little bit annoyed when people start suggesting that all these personality types and stuff like that are absolutely how you must categorize a person. In fact, I'm classic for saying, yeah, I love the color code. It teaches us a lot about people, but what's to stop a person from developing other colors? Because purposely, I actually decided to develop some of the colors that weren't my strength colors. So why would I get stuck? Now, a tendency is very different than a habit. A habit is something that's formed over time, and a personality can be part habit, but it can also be part tendency. A tendency is usually considered to be something that's inborn. So that would suggest that a person doesn't change their tendency. This really had me skeptical. But I decided to pursue my inspection of the book, The Four Tendencies. And what I found was actually really fun, enlightening, and I felt I could add something to the conversation. So that's why I'm creating videos here on this channel about the Tendencies book and certain tendencies. I started thinking in depth about tendencies and how they relate to calmness. There are some people who probably have tendencies that make calmness a little bit more difficult for them than other people. So for instance, a person who is an upholder might have a better chance at maintaining their calmness if they set their mind to it than a person who is a rebel or an obliger. Those people may have a tendency to get overly emotional and struggle with calmness. So let's spend a little bit of time going into tendencies and how those tendencies relate to self-government and calmness. First, we'll talk about upholders. This is a term that the author Gretchen Rubin came up with. I'm not sure it's my favorite term, but I'm a questioner, so that's probably why. We'll get to questioners in a minute. But an upholder is someone who meets outer expectations, which means they please other people, and if they feel like something is socially acceptable, they're definitely going to follow through with whatever is socially acceptable. But they also meet inner expectations, which means if they have a goal, a plan, or an agenda, they actually want to follow through with that goal, plan, or agenda. These are the type of people that if they go out of town and they've traveled to an area where the time zone has changed, They may decide that they don't want to disrupt their sleep schedule when they get back from the trip, so they're going to maintain their sleep schedule based upon the old time zone, not the new time zone. That would be something on the inside that they would have desired. Now also, if they've decided that calmness makes sense and that they have a definite plan or conviction to maintain a calmness plan for themselves, then they might actually follow through with that. That is something that is really exceptional about the upholder. If they put their mind to it, they're probably going to stick to it. The upholder thinks discipline is my freedom. But there are some problems with upholders too. Each one of the four tendencies does have its positives and its negatives, or maybe we should call them stumbling blocks or things that can get in the way. They're problems. Well, the problem with an upholder, and this is just one of the problems, is that sometimes they can be so rigid that they can actually come across as controlling to other people. They are going to do what they are going to do, and that is it. It doesn't matter if it inconveniences anyone else. They are being true to themselves. Do you know anybody like this? If you do, definitely put a comment in the comments section. In fact, as we go through these different four tendencies, then definitely let me know what you've learned about people who have these tendencies too. I'd love to know if you've read this book, if you believe it, and if you've noticed people with these tendencies around you. Obligers also meet outer expectations. In fact, they live for meeting outer expectations, where upholders keep outer expectations and inner expectations kind of balanced, meaning they're not just going to please people socially, and they're not just going to please themselves. They're going to try to keep it balanced. They might trend a little bit more toward just pleasing themselves, however. So a person who is an obliger resists inner expectations. They're actually not really sure they can trust what their expectations are, and they're not sure they can accomplish their inner expectations. And so they measure their success based upon the feedback that they get from other people around them. In fact, they really hope to please people. If people smile at them, praise them, tell them they've done good, then they feel like they know that they've done good. They really do want other people around them to be happy. If they can't make the other people around them happy, they can get very frustrated and end up developing something that Gretchen calls obliger rebellion, which actually makes them push off anybody and say, it's not even worth it. I can't please you. And suddenly they just retreat within themselves and become rebellious-like in their tendency, even though in reality, they're a people pleaser who wants to save the day for everyone around them. Their mantra is, you can count on me, and I'm counting on you to count on me. They want to be needed, they want to be valued, and they want to know and feel that you truly do value them. So let's talk about questioners. Questioners resist outer expectations. They don't care if they fit in or if they're socially acceptable. They just want things to make sense on the inside. So they absolutely meet their inner expectations. And to do this, they ask lots of questions of themselves and of other people. Questioners are looking for truth. They're trying to focus in on something that they can build their foundation on in every different area, in every different conversation. Questioners do have a few annoying habits. Sometimes they interrupt people because they want more information before the person moves on. They have a question. They want to make sure that question is actually answered. It could look like they don't have a lot of social skills, but what they really want is just to understand you more and better. Now, they could look like they don't care about understanding you at the very beginning, but the funny thing is that they're processing everything you say with a question also in their mind because they do want to agree with you if they can. They're just hoping to get themselves to a place where they can accomplish that. Now, I say that speaking as a questioner, I do want to agree with people if I can. There could be the version of questioner that absolutely doesn't want to agree with anybody else unless they have to. And so they're going to ask all kinds of questions to throw somebody off. So there could be, a little bit different version on questioners too. And that could be if you trend toward being a questioner, obliger, and upholder, or if you trend toward questioner, rebel. I'm a questioner that also has a slight tendency to be an obliger or upholder. I do care about people socially. But rebels don't care about people socially, and so if I were a questioner rebel, I would definitely not care how I came across to somebody else, and I might just try to attack them with my questions. But that's not what I generally do as a questioner. The questioner's mantra is, I'll comply if you convince me why. Sometimes it seems like they're a little antagonistic at first, but in the end, they might end up agreeing with you. And they have no problem usually saying that they do agree with you if you have given them enough proof. Last but not least, rebels. Very interesting tendency because rebels resist outer expectations, which might make sense, but they also resist inner expectations, which means they don't want to do what they want to do and they don't want to do what anybody else wants them to do. They want to do whatever happens, and whatever happens seems like the best approach for them. So some people are very lazy and they're actually rebelling. Some people are very controlling and they are rebelling. So it can look very different from person to person. But if they don't want to follow their own direction or anybody else's direction, then chances are they might be a rebel. The rebel's mantra is, you can't make me and neither can I. So they recognize that even if they feel like something might be right, if you are suggesting that they do it, then even if they think it's right, they're going to now push against it. And they're going to declare it's wrong or refuse to do it, even if they know it's right on the inside. The rebel is sometimes confusing even to themselves, and they don't even know why sometimes that they have made a certain decision because they just made it to be oppositional to themselves or to somebody else. So do rebels ever respect anyone? The answer is yes, they do. If they deeply respect a person, it's usually because the person has made some sense to them and that person also pushes against social norms. If a person doesn't seem to just fall in line with what everyone else around them is doing, and they seem to make sense in their decisions to do that, then the rebel might actually follow them and listen to them, even take advice from them and do what the person has to say. They need to see that that person understands their rebellious nature. So what do rebels contribute? They are incredible freedom fighters. They are willing to push against a system in order to bring truth to light. If they believe something, they will push. Or if they feel that someone just needs to push for the sake of balance, then they will push. There are a lot of people who are in the military who are rebels. It's kind of interesting because the military seems like it would attract upholders, but it probably attracts rebels more than upholders, even though the guidelines in the military are so strict and have to be upheld by everyone. But it's the rebel who loves the military because the rebel loves knowing that they are learning to do things that nobody else gets to do. They are pushing back against social norms. Remember at the beginning how I said I teach self-government and that I was going to talk about how self-government can help with all 4 of these different tendencies? Well, it can. So I'm most known for this book here, Parenting a House United. But whether you're parenting someone or not, there are skills of communication in this book that can actually transform your relationships, no matter which tendency you happen to be, or which tendency the other person happens to be. For instance, if a person is an upholder, they need things like pre-teaching, vision, planning. Those types of things are going to be really important. And there are ways to teach those things to children and for adults in this book. If you're working with someone who's an obliger, you're going to need to work through calmness. You're going to need to have consistency. You're going to need to praise a lot. You're going to need to learn how to communicate with them in a way so that they know that they have exceeded or at least met expectations. What about the questioners? The questioners want to know more. They need a structure that has meetings and pre-planning. They also need to know why you're giving instruction, why you're giving a no answer. They need to know skills like how to disagree appropriately. All those types of things are taught in this book. So what about that rebel? What do they need? They're definitely more intricate. Parents struggle. They assume that if they have a rebel, there's absolutely nothing that they can do. But there is something that you can do. I know because for many years I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens, all between the ages of 12 and 18, and the majority of them were rebels. But I was able to help them learn all of the skills and principles of self-government. Skills like following instructions, accepting no answers, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. I helped them heal relationships and learn to be part of a family dynamic and really enjoy it when they normally would not have wanted to. So how did I do that? Well, I helped the rebels learn through consistent teaching and sometimes a few painful experiences that they truly had the choice. So rebels absolutely need cause and effect. They need to have a structure that is bigger than their power struggles. And they need to know ultimately that it comes down to them choosing, not you doing anything to them, which means that your calmness is vitally important. Now, I've just been scratching the surface on these 4 tendencies. In fact, I have a video on each of the 4 tendencies, so definitely look for those individual videos about each of the 4 tendencies and what you can do to help each of the 4 tendencies be better at self-government.